Hey, so this is actually a response to a video you did a couple weeks back. It was about 6 NFL teams that you thought were interesting. And I did a bit different. They're more like teams that you might not think of initially, but teams that I thought could be really good this year that are a surprise. So let me start with what I think is by far the most controversial team on this list, and that is the Detroit Lions. And I know that's a really weird pick because they had gone 0-16, and people are like, hey, what's up with that? But this is actually a pretty talented team. Offensively, that line isn't too good, but I think it's good enough where I think Stafford will be able to get the ball out of his hands. I think he has another year of experience, and I think he has some good supporting cast. That being in Calvin Johnson, who I believe is one of the top receivers in the league because, he's played with John Kitna and a bunch of other quarterbacks, and he still put up pretty good years. So I think Calvin Johnson will definitely make him look good and will make the offense look good in the long run. And, Matt Stafford is a talented guy in his own right, and I think he just needs to find the right situations to succeed. And I think he's going to have some success this year. And then they also got Javid Best this year, and Javid Best is an explosive type player who I think could work in the NFL. Then again, he could also turn out like Reggie Bush, but that's still like a nice utility player for them. And along with Kevin Smith, I think they can be a competitive team. And also, I have to mention Memphis, who is a great player. If you've seen the preseason, he's already been playing like really well, and I think that will continue. I think the whole Lions front four is really strong, and they're not that bad of a defense. I think they're definitely getting up there. So I think this team's building talent. They have some top draft picks who I think are performing up to expectations or will soon enough. So I think that we're looking at a pretty solid team here. Now another team I think that's going to be pretty good is going to be the 49ers. And the 49ers play in a weak division as it is because, you have the Cardinals without Kurt Warner. You have Seattle that's under a whole new regime, and they're changing. And then you have the Rams. So they play in a weak division, first of all. Second, I really like the way they're playing. They play like, a classic smackdown type of football. Run the ball, play good defense. And, who knows? Alex Smith, I think, is going to surprise some people. He was initially labeled as a bust, but I think he's shown people that he isn't that bad. And, I think he could definitely have some success. And they do have Crabtree there, and I think Crabtree is going to make up for what he missed last year, and I think he's going to have a pretty good year. And then there's always Vernon Davis, who's a good tight end, quarterback's best friend. You also have Frank Gore, of course, fantastic running back. I think he's going to put up the numbers this year, as he always does. And I think you have a good enough offense with that. Then you go to the defensive side of the ball. You have to love what Mike Singletary's done. Patrick Willis is such a great player. I think probably the best inside linebacker right now. Feel free to debate me on that, but I mean, he's very good. So that being said, they're in a weak division. They're a pretty good team. I think they can have a pretty good year. Moving on to my third team, and that would be the Washington Redskins. Once again, the Redskins are actually in not the best situation because they play in a really competitive division. But, they do have some opportunities there. Donovan McNabb's obviously moved out of Philly. And while I think Kolb is going to succeed, I think that team does lack some things, and they could lack some leadership down the road. The Cowboys, they could be a really good team, but at the same point, I always feel like the Cowboys could flop. And I like them as a team, but I mean, I just think that, that whole division is so competitive. I think anybody can win it, really. And the Giants, they're trying to redeem themselves, but they might fail. And the Redskins are in a pretty good situation. Um, they had a pretty good defense going into this, and that's really the biggest weakness of Mike Shanahan, is the defense. And if you have that down, I think he's going to make the offensive side of the ball good for you. He's always had pretty good running games, so I think that's going to keep up on the Redskins. And he has some talented backs. They might be a bit older, but I think they can still be productive at this age. So, and then add in Donovan McNabb, and Shanahan works well with quarterbacks. He's an offensive genius, and Donovan McNabb is a very good player. So, I think this is a good shot for him, and I think he's going to succeed. And then moving to the AFC, I'm going to pick the Raiders first off. I'm a Broncos fan, so this is not biased, really. In fact, it should be the other way. But mainly, I think their offense is good enough to the point where I think they can put up some points. And I think Jason Campbell can somewhat lead the team. They looked pretty good without Jamarcus Russell last year, and they stayed competitive with a lot of teams. And their defense has just gotten better. I really like the two picks that they made in the draft, in Lamar Houston, who I thought played really well in Texas, and Rolando McClain, who by all means was one of the top picks coming in. And I think McClain's going to add a leadership presence on that team. He's going to bring a winning attitude, and I think he's also really talented. So I think he's one of the better players that the Raiders have drafted in years. And they don't have the distractions anymore. The team is bought into Tom Cable's philosophy, it looks like. And while I don't think Darren McFadden's going to be wildly successful, I think he's going to be okay. I think Bush is going to be pretty good. And I think Chad Shillings, Zach Miller, I think they're going to be productive with Jason Campbell. I think Darius Hayward is going to still be a flop, but there's still Louis Murphy there, and he's shown a lot of bright spots as well. So that looks pretty good for the Raiders overall. And then the fifth team is going to be, I'm not going to spend much time on it. It's going to be the Houston Texans, and that's a trendy dark horse pick for years now. But there's no denying they have a really good offense. Matt Schaub's a good quarterback, and he's developing still. Andre Johnson's arguably the best receiver in the league. I think their running game's gotten stronger with Ben Tate to help Steve Slatton. So that's a solid team, and defensively, D'Amico Ryans, they've put together a very solid team, I think. So I think they can definitely compete, and they could push for a wild card spot. I don't think they're going to take the Colts out yet, but maybe in the future. And lastly, I'm going to have to pick my team, the Denver Broncos. And it might sound a bit homerish, but I really believe in the Broncos. I think the Broncos are a really good team, and I think the Tebow fever is blinding everybody from the situation in Denver. I think a lot of people underrate Denver, and I think that's going to work out in their favor. Denver's really upgraded their offensive line by getting a couple legit their defensive line, by getting Justin Bennett and Jamal Williams, of course, and just adding depth to that. Jarvis Green's also mixed in there, and that along with a couple of the starters from last year, Ryan McBean, and Ronald Fields. I think that's going to be pretty successful. I really like how they upgraded the offensive line as well with J.D. Walton, who I think was on some draft boards the best center. That's going to improve the running game, make Noshawn better. And in the preseason, Kyle Orton has impressed me, and that's a surprise. Kyle Orton looked like a playmaker some of these games, and the play calling was really good, and it was aggressive. Shows confidence in Orton, and Orton shows confidence in the system. So in short, I think these are a couple teams that you need to look out for, and yeah, so nice day, bye.